Hey everybody, Mike Shope, Adam Krautwurst. It's the Deep End Dynasty Edition, Thursday nights. Thanks for watching. We have a pick to make for me, it's the deep end. I don't know about Adam. Maybe this, I feel like he's taking it seriously, but I don't know how deep his deep end is, if you will. So anyway, it's a $1,000 Dynasty startup that has just gotten going today, first round. We are up in pick 10. We did trade in to make a different pick, and apparently Adam has every NFL jersey. Because it so happens that the player we picked is the jersey he's wearing. So we'll explain that and then make the pick for everybody here. Then talk to Darren Armani, Fantasy Mojo, about some of the things that happened in cutdowns at FFPC over the last couple of weeks. That was interesting. Talk about the offseason with Darren as well tonight. Thanks for being here. This is the Deep End. So why do you have a Kyle Pitts jersey? Like, do you have everybody?
No. Well, so the actual story is my buddy went to Atlanta for a game, and I think he had a couple too many beers, and he FaceTimes me from inside the store there, the Falcons store. And he's like, "Hey, yo, you want anything?" And in the background, I just see this beautiful black Pitts jersey. And this is like week 2 of last year. And I'm just, I'm a big tight end. I'm a big FFPC tight end premium guy. So it's, you know what? I'm going to have this jersey for 10 years at least. So yes, get me Kyle Pitts.
Well, he was our first pick at number 5 in the FFWC 1K Dynasty startup. We'll make pick 10 here in a minute. What do you think about trading up? We thought for a minute it was tight end premium. It's not. And you said, "Hey, look, that's content. We can laugh at ourselves, whatever." But even though sort of the dust settled on that, and we were up at 5, I felt Pitts was the right pick anyway.
Yeah, and I think the dust settled. We're like, "Oh, I think we should probably just stay with Pitts." Yeah, so I thought it was tight end premium. Before the draft started, and you're like, let me just double check. And you double checked, I triple checked, and it is not tight end premium. So, but I'm super happy with Pitts. He's a guy that we can have, we don't have to worry about the tight end position in Dynasty for the next 10 years, hopefully. And Dynasty is a situation where like you can't really draft rookie tight ends and expect to get anything from them for 3 years. So like if you get stuck in a situation where you don't have a tight end, and it's going to be hard to get one. So I really like being able to go Kyle Pitts there and making that happen.
Chase, Taylor, Jefferson at 1, 2, 3. Then Najee Harris. Then there's the little deep end logo up there. Pitts, CD Lamb at 6. Javonte Williams, Breece Hall, Christian McCaffrey. 3 running backs in a row. So 5 running backs out of the first 9 picks. Dynasty startup. We are up at 10. We've got Darren waiting. You and I have talked all day back and forth about what to do here at 10. And, I don't think a trade is really likely. It seemed that most of the interest in trades was in the middle of the first round or even earlier, but not so much lately. So we have discussed, with some seriousness, 4 different players here. I think there are more than that are worth talking about. But with what our strategy has been, as we've discussed it, we want to go wide receiver here. And again, 5 or so really good options. But Adam, why don't you tell everybody what we're going to do?
Yeah, so we decided to go receiver here, and we'll leave. We don't want to give too much away. Again, this is the FFWC. This is their first $1,000 Dynasty League that they've ever offered, and we're in it. We're super excited about it. And thanks to Scott and Billy for inviting us. And there's so many good sharks in this room, and I don't want to give away a lot of our strategy, because we still got a wheel and deal. We got all the this rest of this draft and all these years. So we'll just give you like kind of the tip of the iceberg here. But we decided receiver here, and then we decided to go with T. Higgins. So we are going to draft T. Higgins. And Mike, do you want to give him a little bit of kind of why we did that over maybe some other guys?
Yeah. What I like about it, as opposed to a couple of other options, is that he is 5 or 6 years younger than other obvious names here. And as is the case with Kyle Pitts, I want us to be able to straddle the line between being, if you will, a team thinking about the future and a team trying to win now. And I think with Pitts and Higgins, you're both. Both guys are 22, 23 years old, which is obviously super young, and they're productive right now. They're both. I mean, Higgins, they added Jamar Chase, and his numbers went up last year. So what you don't have is the number one guy at his position on his team, which I think applies to everybody else who's been picked so far. So there is that. But I want to believe I was almost going to say the Bengals organization. No, I don't want to believe in the Bengals organization. He's got a couple of years before he gets away at the earliest, and they've gone hard at offensive line. So I think next year could be a year where those numbers go up even again. So, but again, a few really worthy choices there. But T. Higgins, welcome to the squad.
Yeah, no, I like T. Higgins' talent. His age, like you said, his age is what put him over the top of some of the other players there for us. And you got to start 3 through 3 receivers in this. So receiver was the option there. T. Higgins was the pick there. His age, his offense, and I think you just broke that all down. Andy's discussed. I think Andy is in our draft. I think he's
next.
He's next. He's got him and Austin Martin there are teamed up.
Listen, whoa. Is not we were going to take him. Damn, or something stronger is we were going to take T. Higgins. He was not going to take T. Higgins. So he and Austin are next, and then Greminger and Andy and Austin again. We could be up again before the show is over if they're both sort of
guys. If you're listening, make that happen. Make that happen. Scott says nice pick. He also thought it was between AJ Brown and Debo. Maybe it was. Maybe we'll trade back up during the show and grab one of those guys.
I think the next 4 picks could all be receivers, and we're still fine if we wanted another one.
Yep, exactly. Completely agree. So
all right,
cool.
Here he is, Darren Armani.
Let's bring in Darren. Darren's been patiently waiting.
Let's
Darren, rip on the pick. Rip on the pick, Darren.
Well, I'm looking at Dynasty ADP.
Oh, don't do that.
Platform, and I see T. Higgins is wide receiver 8. Was that the 3rd or 4th wide receiver picked in that draft? It's got to be the 4th, right?
4th.
The 4th.
Chase Jefferson Lamb.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're all pretty close.
And we pick again in 5 picks. We had traded. These are actually 2 of our original picks, but we pick again at 5. We figured we could get. If we want to go receiver again or whatever, we'll go with 2 of those 5 or whatever. So look at that. AJ Brown gone, Mike, immediately. Insta call AJ Brown.
The next guys up are AJ Brown, Cooper Kupp, Debo Samuel, DK Metcalf. I don't know. And then T. Higgins. So that's the mix that I see. But
in a startup for you, Darren, how do you sort of reconcile present versus future?
It looks like you guys are playing the long game, going with the age. The pros versus Joe's Dynasty draft we did. I guess we played more for win now, and it worked out well. We had Adams, Diggs. This was 2 years ago. Adams, Diggs, Amari Cooper, which was meh, and then DeAndre Hopkins. So those are guys approaching the 30-year-old range, but we're probably still good for another couple years. But so
they're approaching that age now. But when you did it, it felt more like the prime or even early prime in some cases. And I don't know. I'm not sure that has tipped younger in the case of Higgins and Chase and Jefferson, but it is or Lamb. I mean, the first 4 receivers to go in this draft are who's the oldest? Could even be T. Higgins at 23.
Could be. I don't have the ages in front of me, but and we came within 3 points of winning the league that year. That it was kind of painful at the end. That was the game Diggs blew up. Diggs blew up and Devontae Adams went crazy that last week of the season. We almost caught him, but it came down to some missed field goal or something like that. It was kind of annoying, but hey, these things happen. So Yeah. Anyway, so but you guys will be fine. What did you trade to get that other first round pick?
Yeah, I was going to mention that when the board was up, a 3 and a 4.
I would have to look at a trade calculator or something. I've only got 2 dynasty leagues, so it's just enough to keep my finger in the game and keep my finger, on the pulse of what's going on, in the dynasty world. But these guys, there's dynasty maniacs running around. Like the other guy that Eric Balkman interviewed last week, he's got 150 dynasty leagues. Like that's crazy. I mean, I don't know. You got to do that full time. That's like it's all year round,
Right. I think Austin's around there too. I struggle too with the long game, short game, because it's and some people go into, like, we did Mike has a local dynasty league that we did a startup last year, and some guy, I think Leone, went in and just played for next year, traded everything away, got picks for this year. So this was last year. He got picks for this year. I did a Draft Sharks super flex dynasty startup a couple of years ago, and Kevin English did the same thing, traded everything away, got picks for the following year. So there's so many different strategies. Do we take, like you said, do we take guys? But I think the thing with Pitts is that's a long game and a short game. He's really good now. He's going to be hopefully really good for a long time. Higgins is kind of the same thing. Now Pitts is I think the consensus tight end 1 for dynasty. Whereas Higgins, like you said, we took him a little bit ahead of ADP, but I think he is in that tier right here.
Yeah, you'd have to see what some of the other drafts on that platform look like to get a feel for like where Pitts would normally go.
Sure,
but yeah, there's guys there's some guys who just completely punt the first year and then just accumulate first round picks. They basically tank the first year. We see that too.
Sorry, Darren, I was going to say, like what Mike Leone did. Leone's kind of like a share. He's sort of a one name. He's recognizable by just his last name, like you with Mojo. It's that rare company. But he wanted young receivers: Chase, DJ Moore, CD Lamb, and he traded for Brown. So to have those 4 guys, I mean, there's so much power at receiver, and when you have guys this productive at this young age, and there are, I mean, we've named all the names already. Man, that is a great spot to be in when you think about, or at least it seems to be, when you think about running backs and their shelf life. Right now, Darren, running back, a lot of the guys who would be the top picks in like a redraft at least are on the second contract. I mean, what happened with Henry and McCaffrey and Dalvin Cook and Kamara and Mixon, they all got signed. It was, I think, really surprising after Elliott that they all got new deals with their own teams, but they all did. So they're probably in the, last third of their careers, most of them, but they're on their team. They're going to play and get volume because the investment is there.
Yeah, and they got hurt shortly after signing those contracts too. But
all of them, pretty much.
What can you do?
Yeah, but that's, I mean, that the doubters to the idea are out there going, "We told you." That's one big reason why you don't do it.
And maybe the fantasy analytics guys are ahead of the actual NFL GMs and recognizing the shelf life of, like you see Zeke going in like in the 6th round right now. I mean, people are just waiting for him to fall off a cliff.
But people knew that when they made the deal. Like it wasn't even analytics guy. It's like every fantasy there's some of these NFL.
As Jerry Jones wants it. Like
Jerry
he
Jones.
has his pets, right. But I don't know,
Yeah, that's right. Everybody. What did somebody said? Maybe everybody said it when, like, the Mike McCarthy hire. Nobody liked that hire outside of maybe the ownership of the Cowboys. Like all of us,
they live in their own world. They're their own ecosystem, and they don't hear like what's going on the outside. So maybe that's
a big point. That's a big point. I know we brought you on to talk about some of your data. And I'm sorry if we're dragging this out, but I always said this. I've been in Buffalo radio for more than 20 years now, and certain GMs have said, and this has always stood out to me, oh, did you hear this criticism? Or the fans are saying this, we would say in interviews, so like to preface questions. And one in particular would say, I can't listen to that. And like on a personal level, I can certainly understand that because it can be very harsh and hard to deal with that criticism. But I think you really need to know what's being said on the outside. I think it has value as long as you can cope with it. So, if I were running one of these teams, I'd want to think that I'd have an ear to the fans, because those decisions, like what you do, the fans have a lot of power in how things are going to go, and it can make it very tough
you
for
want
you.
to cater to the fan base. They're the ones paying the money. I think usually a lot of times the point where they start listening is the damage has been done, and then it just kind of like snowballs, and but
Good point.
Yeah. So anyway, well, nice pick over there with T. Higgins.
Thank you. I can't go too wrong there. All right. So FFPC Dynasty cutdowns were the 31st, midnight on the 31st. And you, as the gatekeeper, I've heard you describe your role just that way at the Expo last year. As the gatekeeper for high stakes data, and in particular FFPC, these cutdowns, what did you see that stood out?
I see. Well, the first thing that struck me as interesting was the amount of people who cut players so prematurely to the cut downs. I'll do like data pools, like sort of intermittently. Like I capture what things look like at the end of the year, and then like I get things ready for cut down day, and I'll just do a couple test runs. And I was like, man, these people cut a lot of people already. And there's some names like people dropped Tom Brady. He ended up being, I captured the numbers. So in Superflex leagues, it turns out he ended up cut in 14% of the Superflex leagues, 24% in the 1 QB leagues. Like I can see like in the 1 QB dynasty leagues, maybe you had an embarrassment of riches at quarterback, and but I mean, a lot of these people, they just cut him because I guess they figured he was retired, he was done, and but like, why even? I don't get it. Like, why? Unless you're managing like 90 teams and you're like overwhelmed, and you just like, for sanity, you just like, I got to like trim some of this fat. But then him and like Lazard was, these things happen sort of later in the, in the spring, and then people had dropped Lazard, and he's kind of on the fence too. But to me, I would just want to hold everything I have until you're forced to cut down to 16. So that's like the big thing that kind of stood out to me. And I can't get inside the mind. Like you've got all different skill levels, I guess, of fantasy player in these leagues, because it's $77 up to they got their $5,000 league. But some of these were, high dollar leagues where they were doing some of this stuff too. Because whenever I see something weird, I'm like, let me see what kind of league it was. A lot of times it's 77, but then there were some big money leagues too. People just kind of jumped the gun a little. So,
yeah, I was just looking. It looks like Brady was cut in. You give the numbers for both individually. I think he was cut in 20% of leagues. He was cut in. Is that what I'm seeing off your?
Yeah, I guess 20% across over all of them.
Great. Yeah, that's wild.
I broke it out between Superflex because last year I didn't break it out. So when you're talking quarterback cuts, a lot there'll be the percentages will be the lower cut rate for quarterbacks in a Superflex because you want to keep two versus the 1 QB.
You know what I love to go look at too is the guys who were cut in like one league, like you got like Dalvin Cook here was cut in 0.11%. Elijah Mitchell, Leonard Fournette, like what? How did the Dalvin Cook thing happen? Like what league is that and why?
Yeah. there's Dalvin Cook, Mike Evans, Elijah Mitchell, Leonard Fournette. I mean, there's the onesie drops that I question if they're mistakes. Like the people they might not even realize they cut them.
Right.
Because I think the FFP, if it's an obvious like mistake, I think, FFPC, if you contact them, they'll like put them back on your roster.
Absolutely.
Right? I think at one point I saw Cooper Kupp was dropped, but then like he was back on the team. So somebody obviously recognized, I made a mistake and must have contacted him and put him back on. But this, the data I ended up with, I waited like a couple days, like, okay, the dust is settled. This is what it is. Like these guys aren't on the rosters anymore. But those are kind of the outliers, and I don't know what's going on.
2 AJ Dillons.
Yeah, a couple AJ Dillons, and then like sometimes if I see something weird, I'll reverse engineer. I was like, let me see like what the roster was like at the end of the year. versus like what they have now is like, why did they drop him? What is so great on their roster that they needed to drop A.J. Dillon? And I didn't go back for in that case, but then I saw Dalton Schultz was dropped in 5 leagues. And what was he, tight end 3 last year? It's like, I don't know, why would you drop Dalton Schultz? Like, what do you have that's so outstanding?
Right.
And I couldn't explain it. Like, I went back and it's like, looked at the guy's roster, and this guy dropped Dalton Schultz. The only tight end he kept was Noah Fant. But the thing that was nuts was he kept 2 defenses. He kept 2 defenses, but cut Dalton Schultz. I'm like, what the hell is this guy doing? This is a 250 league. So, I mean, I don't know. It's like, I don't know what's, what gets in the minds of these people. So,
yeah, super interesting stuff. Yeah, I saw your tweet about Kadarius Toney too. He was dropped in 1% of leagues. I think that was
I
like
think
10
he got
leagues.
dropped in 10. Now, I thought he's like the golden boy. Like, ever since he ran that route, that he like totally faked the guy out and like went off the other way. That just, he's been living off that for quite a while. But that seemed like a lot of, I mean, he fits the profile of the guy you would want to, keep on your squad. But I guess people got to make
the inverse of like Brady or these running backs would be Ben Roethlisberger, who ended the season on 342 rosters in 2 quarterback formats, and he's still on 2. Like, there were a couple of people.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it wasn't the people who cut Dalvin Cook that kept Roethlisberger. But Brady did come back, and so I can respect it depending on your roster. Just holding on to the possibility that player changes his mind. It happens.
Yeah. So I'm interested to see how high he'll go when the rookie drafts start on May 8th in those leagues, like how quick he gets snapped up. Maybe he could be a first rounder. I'm not sure. I'll be interested to see, because that's he's going like 6th, 7th round right now, like in a startup.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's pretty valuable. But we'll see. So be prepared for Mother's Day. The Dynasty rookie draft start May 8th. That's going to be, you better, take the wife out in the morning, because if you got multiple leagues.
Mom is in a league with me, so I'm safe.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
That's a good excuse.
She held on to Jeremy McNichols.
Hey, Darren, real quick, what do you think about, we talked about this for a couple of weeks now. What do you think about these Dynasty orphan teams? Are you, obviously you're only in 2 Dynasty leagues, but like, do you know how these leagues are kind of priced, or what the kind of the decision behind how they get priced and all that type of stuff is?
I mean, a lot of them look pretty good to me. I don't know. That's a Dave Gerzak question. Like, how do
we got to get Dave on the show. He'll answer all this stuff.
Is it a function of how many days on the market it's been? Like, kind of like a house drops in price depending on how long it's been on the market. Maybe that's what it is.
I think he sets the price immediately at whatever he thinks is fair, and he's done it 8 million times, so he kind of knows. And then if it stays out there long enough, like you said, I think he continues to drop it.
Okay.
I thought, just taking a pretty quick look at it, I thought draft picks were like the biggest, just a observation, but that 2022 draft picks might have been the biggest driver into how those teams were priced. Because like you, Darren, you would look at some of those rosters like, oh, Josh Allen, that's pretty good, and you'd see 2 or 3 good running backs and receivers and tight ends not bereft. Hardly any of those teams I looked at had made any moves for 23. If I found a team or 2 that had extra 23s, I might have jumped on it. I was tempted, but some of those teams that were really hard discounted, like a big drop, they wouldn't have had like a 2nd and a 3rd or something like that. So maybe that was a big consideration. I guess it should be.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those guys, they just trashed those teams, and they didn't have any picks till like the 5th or 6th round. I mean,
they knew they were leaving.
Yeah, that's it. They mortgaged the whole team to make a run, and then you got guys on the other side of the spectrum who intentionally tank. I posted one. The guy who rostered 8. He after cutdowns, he had 6 defenses on his team. This is a best ball team, so those are a little bigger. You get to roster 26 players, but you still got to cut down to 16. I was like, man, what did his team look like? And he actually ended the year with 8 defense, And then they dug deeper, and it's like, well, how did he finish? And he was a far and away like in last place. So clearly he was tanking to get the number 1 pick, because in the best ball leagues, the seeding of the rookie draft is different than your standard dynasty. So in dynasty, I think you actually you compete with each other. There's some system
Yes.
to jockey for getting that first pick. Whereas in the best ball, it's purely just reverse order of your finish.
Mhm.
So that dude was just tanking it.
Yeah.
So that was, I didn't even realize, like, so that explained it. But that was like, I wonder how his league mates felt when he was, running with 8 defense to finish.
Right. Hey, I'm looking at the bottom of this list here, Darren. You've got the nice number of players kept at each position kind of broken down. Did you notice anything about like the kind of the percentage of positions kept for each kind of roster here? Did anything kind of stand out to you?
I was kind of surprised that in the 1 QB dynasty leagues, and it was, and you can share it if you want, and people could take a peek at it.
Yeah,
at the bottom of that dynasty cut down page, like half the teams roster 2 quarterbacks. They cut down and kept 2 quarterbacks in the single quarterback league, and I was surprised it was that high, because my impression is people tend to devalue the quarterback in those 1 QB leagues. So that seemed higher than I thought.
Yeah, I agree. That was the one thing that stood out to me, was that such a large, over half the teams kept 2 quarterbacks. And I even think 11.5% is big for 3 quarterbacks in a 1 QB league.
Adam, are you in one of those?
I'm in one. I'm in a couple, actually. I co-own a couple, but I'm in probably 2 or 3 1 QB leagues.
Okay.
But even there, you got the outliers, like the WTF. Like, why do the teams have 4, 5, 6 quarterbacks taken up of 16 spots? So this is just kind of like a high level, the 10,000 foot view of what's going on. Like what did the dynasty teams look like after cut downs? Where are people, putting the capital of their roster spots? So, and the dark green is kind of where the concentration is. So the sweet spot, most people are keeping 4 or 5 running backs, 5 or 6 receivers, and 2 tight ends, 52%. And then there's a couple people. Yeah, there's most everybody's just doing 1 kicker or defense. And then the numbers just kind of shift a little bit on the 2 quarterback leagues. Like most of the people there are keeping 3 quarterbacks.
Sure. And they would probably keep more. There just aren't anymore. Yeah,
it's like, there's nothing worth keeping. Probably a few of those guys would like to get their Tom Brady's back, but they're gonna have to spend some picks to get him back, or go somewhere else.
They're going to have to watch other people draft them and be like, "Hey, no, I didn't want them."
Dude, that's gotta kill you when you're in that rookie draft and someone just is just going to scoop them up. That's going to be killer.
We wanted to get younger. That's what we wanted to do on my squad. Hey, Darren, before we let you go, if you don't mind, one question about sort of the best ball season so far. That never too early leagues, of course, been very popular. I'm always interested to see your reactions, and a lot of those are just like, what happened here? Like a little bit how we're talking tonight. Do you have a couple of thoughts that come to mind about like sort of what you've seen and what has stood out as the most interesting?
I saw you talking the other night about the 12 slot, which was interesting because I'm in a 12 spot right now in one of those leagues, and you are at the mercy of what people will let you have. It kind of sucks. I kind of like the 11 spot where, like, you can anticipate what the 12 spot's going to do, and you can, kind of pick based upon that. But 12, for me, it's going well. But I think the concept was for FFPC when they did this league or this tournament, like they're going to cut it off before it's going to end April 28th, like right before the draft starts. And I think what they wanted to do was to create equity in the player values. But even so, there, like I did a ship chasing draft, like that was maybe the 5th draft in that tournament. And I got some crazy values. I got Brees Hall in the 6th round. I got Dalton Schultz in the 7th. I got Albert O in the 18th round. That was all like before like the shit hit the fan with free agency. So there's still like a disparity of, values. Like people are drafting MVS now maybe in the 10th or 11th round. And even Tom Brady, to go back to him, he was not being drafted, or people were getting him in the 20th round, and now he's going in, the 5th, 6th round. So there still was an advantage to getting in early, and you're getting some values that you just cannot get now. And it'll be interesting to see when we get to when that tournament gets going and teams advance, to see, where those teams, what time of year those teams drafted from.
Right. So if I'm drafting now in those leagues and I recognize that, am I avoiding all those guys necessarily? Am I avoiding anybody who's Brady, Alberto, that's jumped 10 or so rounds?
Well, I think like you still got to get out of your league, and it might not matter for like that first, trim down of the league. But once you advance, then you're going against teams that were created in other leagues. So I think you're fine, to make it out of your league. But then when it everybody starts getting put together, I think that's when you might have some super teams in there that you just didn't have any possibility of drafting if you're drafting at this point. So we'll see how and it depends which players go off. Maybe like last year it was Chase and Burrow stack that and that didn't really even Jamar Chase, I have to go back and look, but I think he was going like 8th, 9th round, like earlier, like in the football guys tournament. So, I'll have to.
Before the NFL draft? No, after the NFL draft, but early in the summer. Okay.
Well, there was that period of time where they say he couldn't catch, right? He was dropping passes and his
stripes
value sunk.
The stripes.
So I'll be doing the football guys deep dive. That tournament. They start drafting May 1st. So in a couple of weeks, I'll have the data out that looks at, all the ins and outs of how the teams were put together last year. And I'll get into I'll dissect the top 5 teams and take a hard look at who they drafted, who they picked up, when they drafted, what was their draft spot, and that type of thing. I'm sure we'll probably see Chase Burrow all over those teams, but so that's coming up too. So it's still early, but there's so much going on. It's crazy.
Yeah. And that is all the stuff you're talking about, Darren, is so good. Your site, fantasymojo.com, is an absolute must for people who are big into the FFPC, whether it's Dynasty or Best Ball or whatever. You have every piece of data that you could possibly want. And all the stuff you're talking about, like looking at these teams, correct me if I'm wrong, every draft and every team is on your website somewhere, correct? Once they're drafted, you can go into each league and look at each team.
Yeah. For, going back to 2010, basically.
There you go.
The thing I like the best is, well, I like a lot of stuff, obviously, but a cool thing is we have the one page where it's all the prize winners. So everybody who came in, it's easily indexed. You can say who won the football guys tournament. Here's the top 50 teams. I can drill down and look at their teams, how they drafted. What did the rosters look at the beginning of the year, the end of the year, look at the draft board. And if you go through that exercise last year, you're going to see a lot of hero RB type of lineups that sort of finished up at the top. But you could get lost in there for days. But yeah, tons of data. And on the best ball tournament, I put the Stack Explorer for that out earlier this week. So if you want to know how many teams have Burrow, Chase, you can go and see that. Which, as I think we still got maybe 40 leagues left. You can start to dive in. It's well, let me try to maybe build something that's a little unique across the competition. So that's out there.
This is a while ago now, but you found that Fields and Mooney was popular, right?
Was that early? Yeah, there was tons of them. There was that was like a heavy stack that was going on. I should do that. That's a good idea. I should go back in now and see what are the most popular stacks that exist in the tourney. I kind of looked at the ones that were very rare because I was doing some drafts. But now that you bring that up, I'll do that too and see like who people may not even realize. Like they're like, oh, I got this great stack, and I'm like you and like 50% of the other leagues have the same stack.
I got to think the most interesting team is Denver. I mean, that has just exploded since that trade, and guys that were just, kind of ordinary middle round guys, even down to Tim Patrick at the end of drafts, and Okwebunam too. Like you have 5-6 guys up to who Hamler that might end up being paired with Wilson now that we know he's there. So that's going to be an interesting team to look at.
Yeah, people fell into those stacks by accident. They might have drafted, Russell before he got traded, and now here they are. It's, with something that they didn't expect. So
yeah, I know. I have one underdog team from feels like 100 years ago. It was probably January where I was doing the whole Aaron Rodgers to Denver stack, and I had Rodgers and Wilson, and then all the Denver receivers, and I lucked into Russell Wilson going there. It's just one of those funny things, but that's why it's fun to draft early. And yeah, I think stacking now has become such a, I don't want to say fad, but like, I feel like Darren, you're going to do this deep dive on the popular stacks. I just think there's going to be so many of them. And it really depends on the way that they line up too, right? Like you get, Superflex is a little bit easier to get your stacks, I think. But, but yeah, when you've got everyone used to try to get that the holy grail, like the Chief stack, right? And it was hard to get. Well, now I think Mahomes you can getting around later than you're used to, so you can really get that stack whenever you want. You're seeing people try to get the Diggs, Allen, Gabe Davis stack now, which isn't too hard to get as long as you're willing to take Allen at the 3-4 turn. So I think people have been stacking a lot.
Yeah, and that was the popular stack from 2 years ago, and it turns out like if you don't have those stacks, if that's the stack that sort of blows up in the sprint weeks, and you don't have those, you're like on the outside looking in, you're done because so many other people have it. So I guess in recent times it's been sort of a popular stack, but if something, and I remember last year I was making comments, like nobody wanted the Lion stacks. Like there was like 0 Jared Goff and Amon-Ra, and everybody's like, who would ever draft that stack? Not that it did anything, but I mean, it turned out like that would, he had a pretty good season. So if you're doing tons of teams, maybe diversify and look and see like, well, not too many people have this particular stack, and just try and, diversify a little bit that way too. But you never know. Right. So we'll see.
Superflex, those stacks choose you almost if you draft late. You're getting the 9th or 10th quarterback in the first round, and then you got to figure out what to do about it. Philadelphia is interesting, like you said about your site, and it's very true. We could go on all night, but let's not. Darren, you're our guest. We hope to see you in Canton. Will we?
I will be there.
Flag football, Darren? You getting into a flag football game or what?
I don't know about the flag football. I'll probably be drinking. I plan on being entertained for the flag football. I'll be there for the poker tournament.
Good. We're
playing too.
I just want to enjoy myself this year. Last year I did that presentation and it was like work. So I want to have a more casual experience this year. So
there you go.
I'm glad to hear you'll be there.
Excellent.
Thank you for tonight, Darren.
All right, guys. Good talking to you.
Thanks so much, Darren.
All right. See you.
Bye-bye. The Kings Classic belt, of course, is going to be in Canton. He's got to try to take down another Kings Classic.
That's right.
How do we get in that?
To win. I think it's invite only, Mike, and we're not apparently.
Right. Same question. Follow-up question. Same question. How do we get in that?
The deep end
get invited
isn't deep enough. So, but yeah, I don't know if you caught the. First of all, great job to Darren. I've been a subscriber to that site from the beginning. I feel like with him, and his site is so good. FantasyMojo.com, absolute must. He knows everything. He's like the Godfather. We got to get him on like once a month, just to recap all the information that he has. But such good stuff.
So AJ Brown went snapped call right after T. Higgins.
Snap call.
And looks like there will not be time for us to pick again tonight because the team at the end is not.
Come on, Theo. What are you doing? He's probably doing a podcast right now somewhere.
Isn't everybody?
The GOAT. That's right. The GOAT District's on right now. So
you're on with somebody. You're like, am I the host? Am I the guest? What is? I forget.
What are we doing?
What are the colors? Maybe the colors will tell me.
What are we doing? Do we
whether
want
this
to
is
talk
my show.
imprinting? Do we want to talk?
Well, I learned a new word today, imprinting. Let's definitely end here. Adam and I are teammates in that FFWC 1K startup. And as I've brought up many times, we've talked about it. Trades, to me, they are really like an art form. You are trying, like being in sales or something, which I was never good at. Trying to get somebody to sign on the line which is dotted. And sometimes that's easy. They walk in and they say here, and sometimes it is not. And then you have to weigh so many different things. You know, we talked to Scott Connor. I ran it down when Scott was on talking about dynasty trades on the show. Who is the other person? Do you know them? What is their style? Do they respond to a text or an email or a phone call or a face-to-face? I had that story about meeting the guy face-to-face that night, and the trade he never wanted to make, he made just like that because he was there and he could look at you in the eye. So many different variables. So some of these guys in this new league, Adam, we know, and some we don't. And in one case today, one team was very late to get to work on it. They had different real life going on. And then it was only a few minutes left in their pick before they had to pick somebody. And David, I bumped into the microphone. David, one of the members there, just started. I think he started to scramble. Like we got to figure out, try to get a trade done here or something. Give it our best shot. And so I was on the air, and I was not in a place where I could really be responsive. I was trying to respond to you, but I couldn't really respond to him, which is what I would like to do. So it played out. We did not make the trade, and I just wanted to email him and say, "Look, it's sorry I didn't, respond firsthand. Maybe my partner did." But thank you. You always got to be polite. You just can't. Don't be stupid about it. Always just assume the person has good intentions.
Well, yeah, you can't burn bridges in the first round of the first trade.
Why would you want to? Just to try to prove how smart you are? Like, just come on, just be nice about it. So the guy got right back to me. He's like, "Oh, thank you. No problem. And maybe we'll do another deal." I showed you the email because it was really meant for both of us, I think, as we're partners in this. And Adam comes right back at me with one word: imprinting. And I almost went on the air to ask Bulldog and my guys, like, what does this mean? But I texted you already first. What does it mean? So what did you mean imprinting?
Yeah. So it's imprinting. It's like when I Googled it because I could see it in my head. It's like when two things normally it's like in like the animal kingdom, like a baby comes out and like it's this first time that we meet and they imprinted and it was a great experience. It's a bond. It was a bond that you made with David, and that's the bond's never going to go away. You will always be imprinted on each other. Now deals are going to flow. Everything's going to be smooth. It's a great experience. I'm happy you two were able to do that. Hopefully we can meet. Guys can meet and share it
That's hilarious.
Make a deal.
Like a couple of bear cubs.
Like a couple of bear cubs.
Hilarious. Imprinting.
Exactly. So people, you want to imprint in these dynasty leagues. You want to build these relationships for sure. Because
I saw on your show you guys were imprinting. So what did that amount to? Oh, we made a trade for Pat Fryermuth because of it.
There you go. That's what it takes. That's what it takes. Hey, before we go real quick, we got a question. I accidentally deleted it and I wanted to bring it up. Someone is trying to accumulate 2023 first round picks in Dynasty. They have 25 Dynasty teams.
We all are.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And they want to trade some 2022 107 through 112s for some 2023 firsts. But they're not sure what to pair them with. This is kind of you're good at like pairing. You're the foodie, you're the wine steak, like perfect combination guy.
I'm going upstairs to cook a ribeye when we're done. The wine is already poured.
That's right, a bone-in ribeye. So, like, what do you think are some things that maybe he can pair with some 2022s? I don't even know if you have to pair anything.
Well, that's important right there. In a normal year, I don't think you ever would. You would never have to. Your 2 this year is worth that 1 next year. But a lot of people have sort of figured out next year is where you want to be. Even if it doesn't come to fruition, the fact that the market is already steered there this year is all that matters. So This year, you seem to have to go 1 for 1, a first for a first. And that's, again, like just in a vacuum, that's not a deal you want to make. But people love next year. So if your goal is what this person's goal is, and thank you for the question, then you're going to have to do that. Do you add to it? There's no such thing as right price. There's your price. And if you want that bad enough, you can throw in a third. You can throw in a fourth receiver or a third running back, whatever that person needs. And you work it out. Like, this is important to me. People are afraid to make an offer that they think will make them look bad to the rest of the group. But what you can actually be doing is sort of dictating to the rest of the group. Like, this is the new price. This is the new standard. So I wouldn't be too afraid to do it. If you have wide receiver 50 on your bench and you're good there and you have a good pick, already, or some other path to a winning team, you can afford to trade that. What do you want? What you want is the 23. So this year you have to be willing to spend more. It's almost gotten, to the point where, like, I don't even try, because I feel like in most leagues I'm in, everybody knows the 23s are coveted and they're protecting them. They've heard, that they should do that. It doesn't have to be right, like I said, but that's sort of the present day situation. And so I've kind of softened on that. I mean, Scott is out there, or he was a couple of weeks ago when he joined us, sort of pushing in that direction. And this viewer wants to do the same thing. I mean, it's what's happening, but there's no exact right price. In a normal year, the 2 for the 1, the 3 for the 2 should get you there. This year is obviously different. So you got to get creative.
Yeah, I think my greatest fear when in trading, away picks for next year is I want to find a team that I don't think is going to do very good this year, because I want their better pick next year. But then it's hard too in the FFPC, for example. You have to win that number 1 overall pick.
In a certain, like, Darren mentioned this, not in every league. Like,
not in every league.
No. Is it because of the price point, or it's because of whether it's best ball or not?
Whether it's best ball. Yep. Yeah.
So if it's not best ball, then you have to win it.
And what's interesting too is Dave's on it. Gerzak's on it. He will make sure that you are trying to win those. He makes sure that those lineups are good. Like, I don't know how he does it. He must have spies all over the place, because I don't know how he can look at every single, every single league, but he makes sure the people are on it. So Jalen Waddle, DeAndre Swift.
Oh, that happened?
That happened.
Oh, all right. Is Austin up?
Austin's up. If Austin picks in the next 5 seconds, we're picking online, but I don't think he's gonna.
Waddle and Swift. They're both fine, but we were not close to either of them. Can we say that?
We didn't say that, but we can now,
I mean, they're both fine. They're both fine. I'm not being disparaging.
It's not,
for what we like, of course. But what they are that is in kind with what we're doing is they're both very young.
Yeah, very young. Waddle. I know that the GOAT District guys love Jalen Waddle. I'm not on the same page. I mean, those guys are the best, but I'm not on the same page with that. I find so much stock in the quarterback. Now, again, 2 of them might be gone after this year. Maybe they get a huge upgrade or whatever. And I think Tyreek Hill really does hinder him. But again, it's Dynasty, super young. He looked really, really good. Fine. Yeah, they got those guys at ADP. So
fine.
Swift
was the running back. Right. I mean,
correct.
He was the running back.
Was the running back if we were going to take one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Waddle is good, and he's probably maybe a little bit like Higgins year 2. I mean, not exactly, but he's probably got a lot more in him, Waddle. But now Tyreek Hill is sort of in the way. I love it.
Yeah.
That's how I want to. That's what we're doing. That's how I want to build these things, and you try not to leave yourself exposed with players that are older that can really help you win, because it's a lot of money to win. It'd be good to win.
Yeah.
So you don't have to play for the long term, but
no. So
interesting.
Listen,
sorry,
go ahead.
I was going to say, when we picked Higgins, Andy and Austin were right there with AJ Brown.
Yes. And that was it was between him and AJ Brown for me.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, listen, you go cook that steak. and we'll discuss the pick.
Oh,
I'm sure we'll be on. I'm sure we'll be on the clock tonight. 33% chance we'll get who we want here, and
33%.
that we'll be wearing the jersey tomorrow. You know what I mean? So we'll see. But
I have 3 or 4 football jerseys that are not in frames, and no, none of those guys. One is dead. None of those guys is going to be on the board here.
Steve Atwater isn't on the board.
One
here.
was the Bills punter in Super Bowl 25 who was deceased. One is Jim Otto.
He's deceased?
Rick Tootin, yeah.
Oh, I thought when was
Tootin'
Moore?
Tootin'.
When did Moore take over punting there?
Later on, he was in Super Bowls, maybe the next 3, but not in Super Bowl 25. That was Rick Bootin' Tootin.
Oh my gosh. Look at this. Look at this content. The Bills punter.
I know.
Super Bowl 25.
So I have a game worn jersey of his that I just bought at auction. I love it, but I can't actually wear it. Maybe one time I'll squeeze into it just for you.
There you go.
Jim Otto, my friend Tony bought me Jim Otto, the Raiders. My favorite all-time sports jersey is Otto. The white with the silver numbers and the name all the way across the back. OTTO.
Four
like
letters.
the point of it was make sure it went shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah.
J Otto, by the way, the absolute best, the coolest NFL jersey of all time. I'll get it autographed.
Obviously.
Then I have a Jim Zorn practice jersey because he was my favorite player as a kid. Because my mom is left-handed and Zorn was left-handed, so he was the quarterback I was drawn to.
Makes sense.
And then a couple others in frames. Thurman Thomas, who's a friend, and then I don't know, more baseball. But you're starting to make it. You're making a statement here.
Thurman, if you're listening, you're welcome on the show anytime. Friend of the show. Come on.
You know,
Fantasy.
I'll ask. You gotta go sort of careful with him. And
Does
I
he
don't
play
know
fantasy football, Mike?
I have no idea. It's not what we talk about.
Let's get him in.
I don't. We're not like super close, but I've known him a long time. You know,
Sure.
just sort of professionally.
Yeah.
We had dinner once. You know, so I really like Thurman. Yeah. So are we up or no? Not yet. We're going.
You're drawing. No.
Show's over.
Show's over.
Thanks, folks. Tonight was fun. Thanks, Darren Armani. Next week. So Tuesday, Thursday again. Tuesday, high stakes. Thursday, Dynasty. This league is both.
Yes.
We have somebody for next Thursday, don't we?
For Dynasty, yep. We have DLF, Dynasty Dynasty League Football. Someone will be coming on from there.
Good.
And we'll talk all about ADP and how we maybe screwed it up with T. Higgins on the ADP here. Who knows?
Yeah. Not a chance I was willing to take. So I'm glad
I love it. No, I like it.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Adam. See you next week.